Welcome again to another episode of Jim Merritt's Indiana. I'm Jim Merritt. Today we're in Muncie, Indiana, talking about Ball State's taking on the responsibility of making Muncie schools better again, and the very best. They have get great results, but I want to know how that happened. I watched this legislation. I participated a little bit. I voted on it when I was a state senator, and there was a mountain to climb there. They had an enrollment that was really declining. The 2,300 students were living in the Muncie School Corporation area that chose to go to school outside the corporation. Their revenues were declining, and their academic performance it really hit the basement. Dr. Mearns, the president, Jeffrey Mearns of Ball State University, is with us today, and we're going to talk to the whole team that has made it such a success in the last 2 years. And we're going to also take a look at what can happen in the future. It's exciting up in Muncie because Ball State really is a teaching college, and this is right in your bailiwick. Dr. Mearns, talk a little bit about how House Enroll Act 1315 several years ago, started us on the path to success.
Well, it began, as you know, in the spring of 2017 for the reasons you described a moment ago: declining enrollment, fiscal management that wasn't keeping up with the decline in revenues. I think in the previous 10 years they'd only balanced the budget once. They had, as you remember, one of the real tipping points was the pre-existing administration had diverted more than $9 million of a $10 million capital bond to plug those holes in the operating budget. So in that spring of 2017, the legislature passed a statute to give the state the responsibility to manage the fiscal operations of the school district. They weren't able to turn it around, so in the fall or December of 2017, the state took full control, and that led to House Bill 1315. And the key elements of that transition to create the partnership was to convert from an elected, 5-person elected school board to a 7-person appointed school board. And it's our responsibility, mine as the president of the university and the board of trustees, to appoint outstanding school board members. You know, our goal was to find people with complementary skills, diverse backgrounds, but a single shared common commitment to providing an outstanding education, public education, to every child here in Muncie. And they've done that very quickly. I'll let Jim elaborate on it. Mm-hmm. But the first goal was to stem the decline in enrollment, to appoint that good school board, to generate community support. Within the first few months, we received more than $3 million of philanthropic support here from local foundations and local banks, and then to develop the academic innovation plan that I know you're going to talk to the dean mm-hmm. and the superintendent about.
Jim Williams, first of all, thank you very much for taking on the responsibility of being the president of the school board. The president has put together some objectives and what the future could be, but this was quite a task. How did you start, and how did you evaluate, and where did you start? And raising $3 million was a terrific feat. That gave you a good foundation, didn't it?
It certainly did, and I would point to President Mearns for that, and he would say it was some of the easiest fundraising he's ever done, in part because of the reputation of Ball State University, and people were able to have faith and trust in Muncie schools and in the partnership that had been formed with Ball State. And that, candidly, when we start talking about the board and where we started, we just built on that natural trust that was in existence throughout the state and across the Midwest in Ball State University and its place as a preeminent teachers college, which Dean Murray will address in a moment. But so when people in the community looked at this partnership, and President Mearns received some emails, I think, at the time it started, from parents who said, thank goodness, we have faith that the community is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And we immediately saw a flattening in the enrollment decline. Now, the board has been able to balance the budget. Starting in 2018, the budget's been balanced every year. We've managed to sock away a significant amount of funds into the rainy day fund, and the state was generous enough, through your efforts and those of your colleagues, to work with DUAP to get a $12 million loan. And remarkably, we're in a position where we are seriously examining paying that off early. Now, that the maturity date on that loan, I think, is 2028, and here we are in 2021, and we're looking at making a significant chip away at that next year, if not pay it back. When we look at teacher retention, recruiting and maintaining an excellent faculty is critical. Our teachers had not had an adjustment to compensation in 10 years when we took over. We have managed to adjust compensation every year, and again, thanks to the legislature in this most recent session, we've brought our beginning level salaries to $42,000. The state was encouraging 40. We're at 42. We've given, as I say, raises each of the last 3 years, and our teacher retention in 2016-17 was hovering mid 60%. We're now, our teacher retention is close to 90%.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So that's a fantastic outcome.
That's got to be one of the highest in the state.
I don't know.
I don't know if we're highest in the state, but we feel very pleased with the percentage of where we are right now.
The other unique thing that the board did in response to Dr. Kwiatkowski's urging was we started adjusting compensation in April as opposed to in the fall of the year, so that we could recruit in those summer months.
Absolutely.
As opposed and keep. And then finally, and this is the critical nut, long-term, and it is a long-term poll. I mean, you're talking, as my friend Dave Shane, who's active in education, says,
Mind trust.
yeah, it's this work won't be done in your lifetime, Jim, and he's right. But community engagement, family engagement, and we've made significant inroads there, but that work continues. So we're very pleased.
Well, you have every right to be pleased. Pleasure to introduce to you Anand Murray. He's the dean of the Teachers College, correct?
Correct.
And Dr. Leanne Kwiatkowski. And Leanne is well known all around the state of being an excellent educator, and she's the superintendent of the Muncie School Corporation. Talk about teacher retention and just how you approached creating a new world for Muncie schools. Dean Murray?
I think I'm going to pass it on.
Well, I'll take it back. First, we came together and we created an academic innovation plan along with a strategic plan.
And there are 3 parts to that plan.
Well, with our academic innovation plan, we got a lot of community buy-in or input. And so our United Way of Delaware County interviewed parents from all across the city, and that helped inform that plan. We also had an academic innovation council made up of faculty at Ball State University as well as Muncie Community School teachers and administrators, and we gathered input from them. We held a summit, an academic summit, Ball State University and Muncie Community Schools early on in September of my first year with Muncie. It was at a level of a national conference, and at that we gathered input, brought in great speakers, and gathered information from our teachers and our principals. And then we also took all that information to create a rough draft of our plan along with our leaders. I worked closely with Jim and President Mearns, at that time, Dean Weaver, and the provost, Susanna Rivera Mills. We met on a weekly basis along with some of my leadership team. Chuck Reynolds was very involved with that. And all of that information helped inform our plan. After we put the plan together, we reached out to a national panel of experts. So we heard from people across the state that are highly regarded, as well as other leaders across the nation. So someone people are very familiar with is Vince Bertram, who's with Project Lead the Way. Vince was on that national panel. So we took all that information and created a plan that has 5 pillars of focus, which would be early childhood education, recruiting, developing, and retaining exceptional leaders, high student-centered learning and active learning, social emotional learning, and then family and community engagement. Our foundational principles are culturally responsive practices and ongoing, highly effective professional development. So all of that is wrapped around those 5 pillars.
Dean Murray, how do you approach your relationship with Muncie schools?
So it's a very close relationship, and what we see is as a partnership. And so what we're thinking about is if Leanne just talked about the pillars, and I want to concentrate on two areas. One is improving teaching and learning, and we are focusing on having all teachers want to help their students learn the best way possible. And so one initiative what we're doing is professional development school liaisons. So we have faculty experts from Ball State University working to improve teaching literacy as well as mathematics and numeracy. So we know those make a huge difference. So that's one example. The second area is social emotional learning. We know that you have to educate the whole child, and if you're just concentrating on just teaching and learning without thinking about how well they're feeling, how well they're fed, how well their social relationships are, it's not going to be as successful. So we're focusing on that area. And so we have a lot of expertise on both improving teaching and learning and social emotional learning on campus, whether they're a teacher's college or across the university. And our job is to make sure we connect them and make sure that we use the resources of Ball State University to improve the lives of kids in Muncie community schools.
Now, students. Are students from Ball State University utilized at Muncie?
Yes. We use a lot of our student teachers and practicum students are in Muncie community schools. And we have a very close relationship. So when MCS has an opening for a student teaching and so forth, they call us directly. Leanne calls me and says, hey, we have an opening for a secondary social studies person, English person, a literacy person. Can you get a student teacher in there? And we make that our first priority to make sure we get the best student teachers to have that experience. And our students benefit quite a bit because they're able to have this immersive learning, take what they in the classroom, in what they learn in theory and practice with, and while improving the lives of those MCS students.
You have got to be very proud. Tell us what you foresee in the next year or two. Just more success. What is something new that's going to come on the scene other than all this great positive news?
Well, I think that the new school board, the administration, and the new dean have quickly stabilized the district, frankly, faster than we had envisioned. They're now moving from that stable environment to truly academic excellence in terms of innovation. So we're going to continue to see outcomes, not just in terms of retention of teachers and in terms of the financial picture. Those are the foundations for the academic performance of the students in the classrooms for the future. So that's what we're going to see. And to me, the lesson is, you know, in our community, we're fortunate. We had Ball State University, we've got Ball Memorial Hospital as part of the IU Health System, other foundations. The secret, we believe, there's no simple secret, but every community has resources. And as Jim and others have said, everyone understands the importance of providing outstanding educational opportunities for their children. So communities that are looking to Ball State, and to MCS, what we would say is find those resources in your community. Reach out to those people, mobilize those resources. That's really the essence of what we pitched to the General Assembly when you were there, which is let us lead a community-wide partnership. And that's what's happened. Ball State is integral to it, but we're not the only ones participating in the partnership. And that's why we're attracting outstanding administrators, school board members, and that's why the success will come in the future.
Well, there's nothing but great news coming in Muncie and Ball State. They've got a great foundation for the future. They've had wonderful success. And I'm so pleased that you invited me to come up and have another episode of Jim Merritt's Indiana.